Most people think Easter is about springtime, renewal, and bright colors. For me, it's when I remember how close I came to something that still watches me. This all happened last year, during spring break. I was in my first year of college, already exhausted by midterms, roommate drama, and homesickness. My parents decided we'd spend Easter weekend with extended family, specifically at my Uncle John's house. Uncle John lives deep in the sticks, in one of those giant rural homes that looks normal until you realize it's miles away from the nearest gas station. The house is big, old, and surrounded by endless trees, tall, silent ones that move even when there's no wind. We arrived Friday night, just before midnight. The porch light was on, glowing like a lighthouse in the dark. I could already hear relatives laughing inside, the usual clinking of plates and thumping footsteps upstairs. But all I wanted was sleep. I tossed my bag in the guest room and crashed without even saying much to anyone. The next morning was chaos. Uncle John's house was packed, cousins everywhere, aunts fighting over casserole, toddlers chasing each other down the hall. Everyone seemed thrilled to be there, except me. Most of my cousins were older, married, kids, into hunting and taxidermy. I was the quiet city kid with a laptop and zero interest in deer season. The only person I ever vibed with at these get-togethers was Kevin, my cousin who was 2 years older and infinitely more chill. We'd always stuck together during family events, mostly out of survival instinct. That morning, we hid from the noise in the basement, shooting pool on an uneven table while Kevin played music off his phone. I thought we'd stay down there the whole day. But Kevin had other plans. "You ever been out in the woods behind here?" he asked, after hitting a terrible shot and laughing at himself. I shook my head. "I don't really do woods." "You should. It's different out there. Peaceful. Bold even. Like time doesn't work the same way." I gave him a look. "That's the creepiest sales pitch I've ever heard." He laughed, but his eyes lingered on the window. "There's stuff out there no one's touched in decades. Crosses nailed to trees. Rock formations. I'm serious." He wasn't trying to scare me. In fact, he looked reverent. Like he really believed the forest was sacred. I don't know why I agreed to go. Boredom, probably. Or maybe something deeper, a pull I couldn't explain. We told Uncle John we were heading out for a nature walk. He didn't question it. "Be back before sunset," he said, handing Kevin an old metal compass. "Phones don't work well out there." I slipped on my jacket, and we stepped outside into the cold spring air. The sky was cloud-covered. Light filtered through in patches, just enough to see our way as we moved past the backyard and into the tree line. At first, it was just trees. Nothing strange. Just rows of bark and moss and the occasional rustle of a squirrel in the underbrush. Kevin led the way, moving confidently. "There's an old trail out here," he said over his shoulder. "Hard to see, but once you find it, it kind of guides you." We walked for 15, maybe 20 minutes. The further we got, the quieter everything became. Like the forest had sucked the sound out of the air. Even the wind had gone still. That's when I noticed something odd. There were no birds, no insects, no signs of life except for us. I tried to shake it off, told myself I was just being city soft. Kevin didn't seem concerned. Then we heard it. Thunk. Both of us froze. The sound echoed softly, followed by silence. Then again. Thunk. It was steady, like a hammer striking wood. Not a branch falling. Not footsteps. Something rhythmic. Kevin glanced at me. "Could be a hunter," he said, but his voice wasn't sure anymore. We stood in silence, waiting for another strike. Nothing. Stillness. Then Kevin started walking again, toward the sound. I hesitated. "Shouldn't we go back?" He shook his head. "I've never heard anything like that out here. I just want to see." Against my better judgment, I followed. A few minutes later, Kevin stopped suddenly and raised an arm to hold me back. "What?" I started to ask, but then I saw it. High up, at least 15 feet above us, 3 upside-down wooden crosses were nailed to adjacent trees. The wood looked fresh. Still damp, almost bleeding into the bark. There were no ladders. No climbing spikes. Just 3 large crosses hanging like warnings above our heads. I couldn't speak. I just stared. Then movement caught the corner of my eye. I turned fast. A man. Standing between 2 trees maybe 30 feet away. He was wearing a flannel jacket, muddy boots, and a thick beard. His face was calm. Too calm. He was staring directly at us. Kevin stepped in front of me slightly, protective without thinking. The man spoke, his voice low and cold. "You shouldn't be here." Kevin raised his hands. "Sorry," he said. "We were just leaving." The man didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't respond. We backed away. Slowly. Carefully. Kevin didn't look away, and neither did I, not until the trees swallowed the man's figure behind their trunks. Only then did we start moving faster. First a walk. Then a near jog. And then full-on running until we broke through the tree-line and hit the grass behind Uncle John's house. We slammed the door shut behind us. Neither of us said a word until we caught our breath. Then we went straight to Uncle John. Kevin explained what happened. The crosses. The man. The warning. Uncle John's expression darkened. He listened carefully. Then asked us to describe the man in detail. When we finished, he looked confused. "There's no one around here who matches that," he said. "And I know. Nearest neighbor's over a mile that way." We asked if we should call someone. He said no. No need to poke a beehive. You're safe now. Just stay out of the woods. That night, no one mentioned it again. But something had shifted. We hadn't just stumbled into someone's land. We had crossed a line. And I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was now aware of us. That night was unusually quiet. Even with a house full of people, kids running, adults laughing, distant clinks of silverware, something felt off. Like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Kevin and I kept mostly to ourselves. We didn't go back outside. We didn't mention the upside-down crosses to anyone else. And we definitely didn't talk about the man in the flannel. But my mind kept returning to his voice. Not angry. Not surprised. Just cold. "You shouldn't be here." That wasn't a warning. It was a rule. A rule we had broken. After dinner, most of the family gathered in the living room. Some watched TV, others played board games with the kids. I excused myself and went upstairs, saying I was tired. Truth was, I couldn't stand pretending like everything was fine. I paced around the guest room for a while. Then, without thinking, I climbed another flight of stairs, to the 3rd floor. Uncle John's study was up there, tucked away like a secret. I hadn't been inside since I was a little kid. The door creaked open without resistance. Everything was neat. Old books lined the shelves. A grandfather clock ticked in the corner. And there, stretched across the far wall, was a wide window that overlooked the entire backyard and beyond, the woods. I stepped closer. From up here, the forest looked calm. Peaceful even. But I knew better now. I leaned on the windowsill and tried to let my mind settle. That's when I saw it. Faint. Almost nothing. A flicker. Near the edge of the woods. Then another. A soft, pulsing glow, like the flame of a candle or the flicker of a small torch. I froze. There were 3 of them. 3 glowing lights. Not moving. Not swaying. Just burning. Like sentinels. I stared for at least 30 seconds, trying to rationalize what I was seeing. Then I realized something even worse. They weren't pointed outward, toward the forest. They were pointed inward. Toward the house. Toward me. Panic surged through me. I stumbled down the stairs, barely able to breathe. I didn't knock. I slammed my fist on Uncle John's bedroom door. He opened it in seconds, wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. His face changed when he saw mine. "What is it?" "There's something outside," I panted. 3 lights. Torches, I think. They're standing just past the woods. His jaw clenched. "Where?" "Edge of the tree line. Facing the house." He didn't ask another question. He grabbed a rifle from under his bed, threw on a coat, and marched out of the room. I followed him to the back door. He stepped out onto the deck, scanned the yard, lifted the gun, and fired 3 times into the air. Bang, bang, bang. The sound tore through the quiet like lightning cracking the earth. The entire house exploded in panic. Lights flicked on. Doors opened. Kids cried. Footsteps thundered from every floor. But when I looked back at the trees, the torches were gone. Gone. Like they had never been there at all. What happened? My mom yelled as she came rushing down the stairs. Uncle John didn't answer. He stood still, his rifle pointed downward, staring into the darkness beyond the trees. I saw them, I said, my voice shaky. 3 people. Just standing there. With torches. Uncle John finally spoke. Everyone stay inside. Lock every door. Close the blinds. His tone was final. No argument. And for once, everyone listened. The rest of the night was chaos. Kids too scared to sleep. Adults whispering in the hallway. Kevin and I stuck together in the basement, barely speaking. He hadn't seen the lights. But he believed me. I told you, he said quietly. There's stuff out there no one talks about. You just saw it. I nodded, but I wasn't sure what I had seen. Were they people? Were they watching us? Or were they waiting? I woke up the next morning before dawn. Not because of noise. Not because of nightmares. I just woke up. Everything was still. I checked my phone. 5:08 a.m. No messages. No calls. Sunlight hadn't yet reached the sky. The house was asleep. I sat up in bed, unsure why my chest felt tight. Then I remembered the lights. The torches. I got out of bed slowly, my bare feet cold against the wooden floor. Drawn by something I couldn't name, I went back to the 3rd floor. Back to the study. Back to the window. And I saw them again. Not flickering anymore. Not faint. 3 figures. Standing just beyond the tree line. Not walking. Not moving. Just watching. Even from this far I could tell, they weren't carrying anything now. No torches. No tools. Just still shadows against a wall of black trees. All 3 facing the house. And somehow I knew. They were looking right at me. I didn't scream. Didn't move. Didn't blink. Then slowly, as if sensing they'd been seen, they turned. One by one. And slipped back into the trees. No sound. No rush. Just gone. That morning, I told Uncle John what I saw. He didn't grab his gun this time. He just sat down at the kitchen table and rubbed his eyes. You're sure? Yes. How long were they standing there? I don't know. Maybe all night. He was quiet for a long time. Then he looked me dead in the eye and said, if you ever see them again, don't go outside. Don't call out. Don't even let them know you see them. I swallowed hard. What are they? He didn't answer. He just got up, walked to the window, and closed the curtain. We left Uncle John's house that evening. The Easter festivities were canceled. No egg hunts. No barbecues. Just packed bags, tired eyes, and adults pretending they weren't afraid. No one talked about the rifle shots. No one talked about the 3 strangers. But the energy had changed, like the woods had pressed too close, and now everyone could feel their breath on the back of their neck. The drive home was quiet. My parents didn't ask questions. And I didn't offer answers. But I kept thinking about what Uncle John told me that morning. Don't go outside. Don't let them know you see them. Weeks passed. The school year ended. Summer came. I tried to forget. But forgetting is only possible when you truly believe you're safe. And I didn't. Not anymore. It happened during a warm June afternoon. I was cleaning out my old bedroom for a garage sale. Boxes full of childhood clutter, broken toys, outgrown shoes. I wasn't even thinking about Easter anymore, until I opened a bin from the top shelf of my closet. It was filled with plastic Easter eggs. Not unusual. My mom had always saved the old ones. Pink, yellow, blue. But one of them was different. Green. Faded. Cracked near the seam. I almost didn't open it. I wish I hadn't. Inside was a tiny, folded slip of paper. Just 5 words. You were almost mine. I dropped the egg. It hit the floor and rolled under my dresser. My breath caught in my throat. My mind raced. Where had that egg come from? It didn't match the others. It didn't belong in that bin. And no one knew that phrase. Except for me. And the man in the costume. The lucky chosen child. The one he tried to lead away. The one that got away. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell Kevin. But I did the only thing I could think of. I booked a flight and returned to Uncle John's. It was a crisp autumn morning when I pulled up to the gravel driveway. The house looked the same. Remote. Normal. Uncle John met me at the door, surprised but not unwelcoming. You all right? He asked, eyeing the suitcase in my hand. I just needed to see something. He didn't press. Just nodded and let me in. That night, I sat on the 3rd floor study couch and stared out the window again. The trees were still. Silent. Empty. But I didn't trust the stillness anymore. The next morning, I told Uncle John the first wanted to see the door. The basement one? He asked. I nodded. The one from before. He didn't question me. He just led me down the creaky stairs and through the narrow hallway. The gray door stood there, reinforced now. Steel bolts. Padlocks. A security camera above it. But the shape was the same. The color. The memories. Uncle John unlocked it and swung it open with effort. It groaned like it hadn't been touched in months. Cold air seeped in from outside. Dew clung to the cement just beyond the threshold. I stepped closer. And that's when I saw it. Near the bottom corner of the door. A smudge. Faint. Almost missed it. But unmistakable. A handprint. Too small to be an adult's. Pressed into the metal like someone, or something, had touched it from the inside. Do you see that? I whispered. Uncle John squinted. His face went pale. That wasn't there before, he said. I stepped back. The handprint didn't look recent. But it hadn't been cleaned either. It had just stayed. Hidden in plain sight. Waiting to be noticed. Just like the torches. Just like the men. Just like the things in the woods. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept thinking about patterns. About things that come in threes. 3 upside-down crosses. 3 flickering torches. 3 gunshots into the sky. 3 strangers in the dark. Maybe they were warnings. Maybe they were rituals. Maybe they were claims. When I woke the next morning, Uncle John was already in the kitchen, frying eggs and whistling like nothing was wrong. I didn't mention the smudge again. And he didn't bring it up. But before I left, I asked him one last question. Have you seen them again? He hesitated. His hand tightened around the coffee mug. Then he said, without looking at me, No. But I don't go to the window anymore. That was almost a year ago. Easter is coming again. And I can't help but wonder if the forest still remembers me. If those torches still burn where no one looks. If that handprint is still there, pressed into the metal, waiting. I think about the kid I saw in the car all those years ago. I think about the things Kevin and I saw nailed into trees. And I think about the night when 3 figures watched a house full of sleeping people, and then turned away. Not because they were done, but because it wasn't their time yet. Sometimes I wake up before dawn, sweating, heart racing, certain there's someone standing just beyond my window. Sometimes I close the curtains and count backward from 10. Sometimes I swear I hear it again. From the woods. Somewhere out in the distance. So, slow, thunk, thunk.